Hello there. We are back. That's right. We had a recent Dynasty Rank update, and we are here today to talk about it. This is the Angle Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Andrew. We have a Dynasty Rank update recent as of November 27th. So if you would like to see where your players or other players now stand in our Dynasty rankings, be sure to check those out at anglefantasybasketball.wordpress.com. You can follow us on social media, first on X at AngleFantasyBB, as well as on Bluesky at AngleFantasyBB as well too. So I say we are back because it's been over 3 weeks since we've had a formal podcast. So it is very good to be back in front of the mic again. But of course, during that time, we've still been pumping out some content. One new thing we've been doing is our weekly buy-sell show. So last season, this was a very popular piece of content that we did. It came out in a written version, but this season we have converted it to a video version. So I am joined by a fellow Angle analyst, as well as the host of the weekly buy-sell show. Make sure to check that out on our YouTube channel. Braxton, great to see you again, buddy. Great to see old Bold and Brash. How are you doing today?
Thanks. I'm doing good, man. And yeah, the buy and sell, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Feel like I'm slowly getting my footing. And I feel like it's improving in terms of the quality of the video every week. So yeah, having a lot of fun doing it. Hopefully it's helpful to the people that are watching too.
But of course, that's what we and our viewers love to see is improved audio, improved video. And that's, the type of things that we like to do with each passing video. So you'll see some improvements with this Dynasty Rank update overview video, just like you have in recent months past too. I'm, of course, joined by the other analyst over at Angle, Mitchell. How are you doing today, dude?
Doing well. Woke up extra early to take the train so I could help decorate and paint some elementary school kids for our volunteer day at my company. So giving back to the community is always a good time. And we had free jersey mics. So I'm pumped. I'm ready to go to talk Dynasty with y'all.
You were painting elementary school kids? What color did you paint them?
Oh, did I say that? I
Yeah.
thought I was saying I was painting. Okay, so I was painting on the walls at an elementary school for the kids.
Okay, I figured that's what you meant, but I wanted to play on that a little bit. Imagine you dumping buckets of paints on children.
I wouldn't be ethically good, but yeah.
All right, so in this video today, we are doing what we have done in the past few Dynasty Rank updates, where each of us have selected 10 players that we wanted to briefly discuss. So that takes it to 30 players overall. So hopefully we're going to cover one of the players that's on your Dynasty team today, so you can hear our quick thoughts on how we view their recent movement within our Dynasty ranks. So one disclaimer I need to give is there's going to be 4 specific players who are notable to talk about in regards to a Dynasty rank update that we are not going to be discussing today. The first of which is RJ Barrett. So the main reason why we are not discussing any of these 4 names is due to Dynasty Outlook videos. So we've released videos where these players get a full video to themselves. We do a full in-depth dive into their Dynasty Outlook. So obviously we go much more in-depth on those players than we do in this video. So the RJ Barrett Dynasty Outlook is currently out. I will link that at the end of our video here for you guys to click on if you want to check that out. Also, players who are going to be covered this month, who are not going to be covered in this podcast, is Dyson Daniels, Jared McCain, and Tari Eason. So if you're wondering, how are they not talking about the great barrier thief? Why are they not talking about Jared McCain? This dude's on fire. That's because they're going to get their own videos, their own dedicated allotment of time where we're going to do a deep dive on them. So keep a close eye on our YouTube channel before those get released. And one last thing I will mention is, yes, even though we have not done a podcast in the last few weeks, we of course have had the buy sell show, and then in addition to the RJ Barrett Dynasty Outlook, we also Mitch and I in early November took our first trip to a Clippers game to see the newly built Intuit Dome, and we did our first vlog of this season where we cover our experience at the Intuit Dome, what it's like, as well as what you can expect if you ever do go to a Clippers game. So that will also be linked at the end of this video for you to click on if you want to check that out as well too. So let's get started on these Dynasty ranks. As always, we're going to pull up our Dynasty ranks on our website for you on the screen for you to follow along with. And then a new feature is I am going to add in the players' faces that are being discussed as we move along as well too. So a few visual cues to let you know who we are talking about. All right. So each of us has our players, our 10 players assigned to us that we are going to discuss. We start from the top of the dynasty rankings and work our way downward. So we are starting at the top 20 here. We'll work our way down until we get outside of the top 100. And then, of course, on the latter portion of this show, we're going to cover some of those deep league guys for you deep league dynasty players out there, which, of course, that's the format we play in. We play in 30-team dynasty leagues. So these guys are, of course, relevant to us. So if you are playing in a deep league or you want some cues as to potential stash guys who are going to become more relevant to shallower leagues, 16, 14, 12 team dynasty leagues in the future, then that's going to be helpful to you as well. So we're first going to start off with our number 8 ranked player, Chet Holmgren, who actually dropped one spot in our recent update.
Yeah, and that's probably because of me. So as you can see here, you and Mitch kind of have him at 6, and I've got him at 16. Yeah, so it's his second major injury in 3 seasons. He's only played one full season, and to me, it's kind of absurd to value him inside the top 10. Last year, he finished 26 overall. He was 22nd this year before he went down with his injury. And this is before he played with Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm not sure how Hartenstein does anything but hurt him statistically. Seeing those boards go down is not what you want, and he's firmly the third option on this Thunder team. Yeah, the blocks are nice, but he's not somebody that I can see you winning or can see a team winning a fantasy championship with him being their best player. I just don't see it. I don't think the statistical versatility is there. And I don't think he does enough outside of really blocks to, warrant a top 10 ranking. I don't know if he's earned that, in my opinion. Yes, all the other categories are good, but I just don't know how he gets to this top 6 over somebody like Scotty Barnes, for example, who can do literally everything.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, nothing entirely on the counting stats is going to pop, but when I think of Chet Holmgren, I think of someone like a Victor Wembanyama light. Victor isn't entirely like a massive scorer. I know he has those huge outbursts, but he's not like a 30 point per game guy at the moment. Chet Holmgren, I think in his peak could probably hit that, you know, low 20 point per game mark, and he doesn't hurt you in any other way, right? He's actually little more efficient than Victor. He takes it to the paint. He's aggressive. He has pretty high field goal percentage for the amount of threes that Chet Holmgren provides. And he also is an anchor in those block categories that are always so valuable, and everyone really looks forward to drafting in a rookie draft. So Chet Holmgren is someone who I don't think, you know, should be outside of the top 10. He's very young. He's only in his third season, and I think there's still a lot of room for improvement.
I understand from your perspective with the players that you like, you're not seeing enough rebounds, maybe even out of position assists that justifies it for you. But there's, of course, builds out there such as a points punt or a punt points build or a build that focuses more on efficiency where Chet's going to be a super good fit for that.
Yeah, I don't want this to turn into a huge discussion about Chet, right? I mean, obviously, I'm still super high on him. I have him 16. Again, just to reiterate, in my opinion, I just don't think the ceiling is there for a top, 10 finish, maybe ever. But, there's probably a happy medium somewhere between the 6 and the 16.
So let's move on to our next player. We are going to talk about one of the most popular players in the league, Anthony Edwards, coming in at number 11. He actually went down 2 spots, so we bumped him out of our top 10 now.
I'll go ahead and cover Anthony Edwards. And like you said, Andrew, he's a very popular player. Everyone loves watching him. He has a very lively personality that everyone really t tends to gravitate to, really. And he's really the opposite of someone like a Trae Young, where we kind of devalue him because for some reason nobody really likes him in the basketball community, I guess in a personal level. But the reason that I'm dropping Anthony Edwards outside of our top 10 really is because he's 29th for the season, right? So Anthony Edwards, yes, he's a great scorer, but in the upper echelon, outside of like a Scotty Barnes and a Tyrese Halliburton and a Chet Holmgren in that top 10, top 15 area, he's not at those like 30 point per game type players where they're really anchoring your offense. He did have a increase in 3-point volume, which is very encouraging, which allowed him to bump up from that top 35 to the top 25 range this year. But overall, I mean, you know, you can't really expect too much out of him in terms of rebounds, in terms of efficiency for your field goal. He's a very high volume shooter who takes a lot of difficult shots. So there's going to be nights where he's going to be sub 40%. He's not very reliable at the free throw line as well. I know out of his first 4 seasons, he did shoot above 80% once, but that's really hard to sustain if you look at regression of the mean. And I still have him, don't get me wrong, as a top 15 asset, but I think players like Jalen Williams, who are very efficient and do a lot of the same things, um, it doesn't really make sense for me to have him as high up there as the top five as some other dynasty analysts because of those warts in his game.
So that's going to move us on to one spot down. At number 12 is another member of the OKC Thunder, Jalen Williams. So he moved up 6 spots. The reason for that is because J-Dub currently occupies a top 10 spot in 9 category fantasy basketball. He is eligible for every position besides point guard. So obviously in any format, Yahoo Fantrax, you absolutely love that positional versatility, especially getting that center designation this year. That's huge. That is definitely huge. I personally think, and you can see here from the ranking, I put him at number 9, that he is ready to be a top 10 asset. But the way our averages worked out stopped him just short of being there. He's right outside the top 10 at number 12. I'm very confident that he's going to break into our top 10 eventually. So congrats to all of you who have invested in J-Dub. It's really coming together for him. There was a point, in maybe about a little over a year ago or so, where I think he probably was outside of the top 30 dynasty rank wise. So to now have your guy getting towards the top 10 after you invested in him early is huge. So again, congrats to those who did invest. This is not a sell high situation. This is legit. He is only at 31 minutes a night. He was already good at all the areas that he is currently performing best at. So this is a true leap and not due to injuries. He was already an efficient shooter, already good at stocks, already showing a scoring jump. So really all of those things just elevated this year as he gets older, gains more experience, gains more muscle mass, and is just becoming a better overall player. Really the only thing you can attribute to injury for Jalen Williams is earning that center designation. So obviously with Chet and Hartenstein both being gone for a period of time for OKC this season, that's where J-Dub played enough at center to earn that center eligibility. So that's really the only thing I'm going to attribute due to being to injury to him. Other than that, all of this is real. Do not sell high. Hang on. This guy's awesome. He is going to be in the top 10 eventually, probably within our next update, I would assume. So now we're going to move out of the top 20, moving down the list a little bit here. It's going to bring us to number 26, Karl-Anthony Towns, who actually jumped up 13 spots in this update, which if we're talking within top 40, jumping up over 10 spots is quite significant. So Cat's been reunited with Tibbs.
Yeah, so a huge jump in value for Karl-Anthony Towns playing his natural position at the center spot. So for him to jump 13 spots in the top 30, it's really remarkable for his value, especially because after that trade, Karl-Anthony Towns has increased his rebounding numbers from 8.3 to 13 rebounds a game. Again, this is playing the same amount of minutes that he's been playing in Minnesota, transferring over to New York. So it's not the minutes attribute, it's the ability to play his natural position at the center spot. And playing in New York, he's really rejuvenated his career. He's fifth in 9 category leagues for this season, and he does a little bit of everything, which is really attributing to his rare stat set. So I'm just gonna really lay out his stats and his breakdown for his 9 category skill set. He's averaging 25 points a game, 2.4 threes, 13 rebounds, 3.2 assists, which is really good as a center, by the way, zero point 0.8 steals and 0.8 blocks on pretty solid efficiency or someone who's very high volume at the 3-point line. for a center. So he's shooting 53% from the field and 86% from the free throw line. So Karl-Anthony Towns is someone that I've been really excited about after hearing the trade go down right before the season. And, it's really only come into fruition with how incredible he's been. And he's a potential redraft steal and someone who you could possibly sell high in dynasty leagues, especially if you're trying to rebuild with that nice little boost in value.
So now we're going to move down a few spots to number 29, someone who's just freshly broken into our top 30, which is Franz Wagner. He's moved up 5 spots from our last update. A big reason for that is because Franz is currently top 15 in 9 category fantasy basketball rankings. So this is, of course, due to a massive uptick in steals and scoring. And I must say, this is a little bit of a red flag. So we all obviously know that the scoring boost is heavily attributed to Paolo Banchero currently being out. That is majority of the Magic's offense right there is Paolo. So obviously somebody had to pick up the slack. And for now, that is Franz Wagner. So of course, we can probably assume that when Paolo returns, the scoring will go down a little bit. In addition to that, 1.8 steals per game currently on the year. The best Franz has ever done so far is 1.1 steals per game. So that is a huge boost, almost doubling his steals total per game from last year so far into this season, which is a little bit of a red flag as well, especially if it starts to trend back down towards the norm and gets towards, let's say, 1.4 steals per game, then his value is going to take a huge hit. He'll probably fall out of the top 30 at that point. And then if his scoring goes down, when Paolo returns, he'll likely fall out of the top 50 at that point too. Prior to November 1st, so remember, Paolo got hurt at the very end of October. So prior to November 1st, Franz's numbers look very similar to what it has looked like in his overall in his career. It was around 17 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists per game. That's pretty normal to what Franz was recently doing. So it was really once Paolo got hurt that the scoring uptick happened. And then obviously right now he's riding on a huge steals boost too. So Franz is definitely more of a sell high currently, especially if you can get a top 20 dynasty asset back for him. For example, within our server where we answer questions to our server members who are looking to get advice on trades, we even had someone who was in a trade scenario where another person was willing to give him Tyrese Halliburton for Franz Wagner. So this is the type of thing we want to see. Use Franz Wagner to sell high and buy low on somebody else who's not performing great in regards to fantasy and dynasty right now, but is likely going to bounce back at some point soon. So Paolo is due to be reevaluated in the middle of December here. So the sell high window for Franz is still open. It's open for another 3 or 4 weeks, I would probably say. So if you sell him now, be prepared for that to sting for a little bit. It's going to sting for the first couple of weeks, but once Paolo returns and the scoring and steals go down, you're going to be happy you did that if you did get a top 20 dynasty asset back. So here's a popular question I'm going to ask to the both of you. So whoever one wants to answer, feel free to answer. Are the Magic better relying on Franz instead of Paolo?
I mean,
they've won 7 out of their last 9 games, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, why can't they coexist, right? Okay, so as someone who watches a ton of Magic games, for Paulo, for Suggs, for Franz, huge fans of all 3 of them as a young core. So when Paulo was drafted, they were a bottom 10 team. After 2 seasons of Paulo Banchero, they become a 5 seed in the Eastern Conference with a winning record. That doesn't come without Paulo Banchero. Yes, there's a lot of hype around Franz Wagner right now and the success, but there's no reason to believe that they can't coexist with each other, given the success that they took Cleveland to 7 games last year in the first round of the Eastern Conference. So why can't they coexist? It doesn't really make sense to me that they can't, because they're such dynamic and malleable players that they can defend at a high level, they can create at a high level. And this is a team with a lack of scoring, especially in the playoff settings where at the half court offense, you're going to need someone or 2 self-creators. And for me, they definitely need both to succeed in the long haul.
All right, so now we're going to move just 1 spot down to number 30. This is one of our biggest drops in regards to a top 30 asset. Coming in at number 30 is now Joel Embiid. He has dropped 17 spots since our August update.
Yeah, there's not a ton to say here that hasn't really already been said. I mean, it's kind of everybody kind of knows the deal now with Embiid. The injuries are a huge, huge concern. He's only played 4 games this season. He looked bad in 2 of them. He looked okay in one, and then he looked like himself in one of the games. But if he says that he was like he's implied that he was joking when he said that he was never going to play back to backs again. But I don't really until he plays a back to back, I am choosing to believe that he's not going to be playing another one ever again. That right there is something that you don't want to see from a top fantasy asset or somebody you pick in the first round in redraft, for example. I know these are dynasty rankings, but the point still stands. Yeah, if Embiid can get healthy, which seems very unlikely at this point. Maybe he'll move back up, but I think it's only down here for Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, the joke was always that, oh, he's injury prone, so I don't want him. But due to recent comments and what we've been seeing, it's pretty much a guarantee at this point he's going to play 60 games or less. So now you have to factor that in if you want to bring Joel Embiid either onto your dynasty roster or onto your redraft roster. It's like, am I okay with him playing 60 or less games? I mean, at this point, it's safe to assume that that's what it's going to be until we see otherwise. All right, so now we're going to talk about somebody who has skyrocketed up our rankings into the top 50 now, coming in at number 43, moving up 40 spots. My goodness, Jalen Suggs.
Yeah, with Jalen Suggs, I'm actually surprised that I'm the lowest on him, despite having multiple stock on Jalen Suggs between the three of us. So, yeah, Jalen Suggs is really solidified himself as a top 50 asset, and I don't think I've seen any other dynasty community or group higher than Jalen Suggs than the three of us. And I just want to give us a quick pat on the back for that in hindsight because Jalen Suggs has erupted as Orlando's most important guard, signing a 5-year, $150 million deal at 23 years old. So he's locked in. He's going to be part of their big three, and he's ready to go. So currently this season, he is ranked at 67th in 9 category leagues, and he's averaging 15 points, two threes, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. So kind of that Drew Holiday archetype, but also with 1.3 steals and 1 block, getting those nice out of position block numbers like a Derrick White. However, his overall field goal percentage has dipped, and I think it's in large part due to Paolo's injury, where Paolo really self helps the self creation for Jalen Suggs, where self creation isn't a huge part of his game, where Paolo was able to drive and kick, gravitate all the defense and kick it out to Jalen Suggs for some open threes. So since his injury, Jalen Suggs has dipped 4 or 5% from the field and 13% from three. I know it's a 5 game sample, but we know the gravity that Paolo Banchero pulls from the defense. So once we get Paolo back, expect those efficiency numbers to rise, where Suggs isn't expected to be a top two option. And we've seen with that 5 game sample where Jalen Suggs was putting those top 20, top 30 numbers very early in the season. So a lot to be happy and excited about for Jalen Suggs. He's only 23, and the sky's the limit for this kid.
What I thought was so funny about when he signed that contract is right after he signed, everybody was like, "Whoa, whoa, wait a minute!" And then he played like 3 games. Everybody's like, "Wow, oh my God, he's a steal!" So
Yeah, it went
I
from
love
like
the
whoa
trajectory.
to now he's underpaid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
dude's a menace, and he's a potential defensive player of the year. If there is another guard who does win it, he is in that Marcus Smart mold.
All right, so we're going back to back with you, Mitch. We're going just a couple spots down to number 45, someone who's newly broken into the top 50 as well, rising up 15 spots since the last update is going to be the Frenchie Alex Sarr.
Wow, back to me already. Okay. Yeah, Alex Sarr went up 15 spots since our last update, and he overtook Reed Shepherd as the number one rookie for us in our holistic dynasty rank. Andrew, you have him in at 47, Brax 49. I'm highest on him at 39. So with Alex Sarr, he's a lot better than expected, especially defensively, adding those stocks and steals for a big man. He's a he's very impressive and he fits that modern archetype as someone who can theoretically right now stretch the floor. I know the numbers don't indicate that, but I think he in his progression through his NBA career, he'll reach a respectable mark in that term. I don't think he's going to be a Lopez or a Miles Turner by any means, but he's someone that you need to cover. And he's also very impressive as a passer, someone who's great at the dribble handoff as a big man. He can make those reads in the high-low. And that's something that I like to see. Someone with a diverse stat set. As a rookie in the first quarter of the season, he's averaging 10.5 points, 1.1 threes, 6.2 rebounds, 2 assists, zero point 0.7 steals, and 1.8 blocks. We won't talk about the efficiency numbers right now. We know it's been bad. He's going to get better. Trust me, he's only a rookie. And lately trending, his minutes have increased in the season where to start, he was at the mid 20s mark, but now he's playing nearly 30 minutes a game with JVal playing in the high teens. So as these minutes trend up, expect higher numbers from Alex Sarr as he gets his foot through the door.
All right. That's going to take us a few spots down to number 48. So we are still in the top 50 here. So one thing that happened between all three of us did this in our August update, is we were a bit more harsh on some of the old heads of the league and kind of dropped their ranking down a little bit. So we made the right call on some of those. Shout out to Jimmy Butler, LeBron, and Rudy Gobert. But there was a couple of the guys who were playing great this year who we had to bump back up again. One, for example, is Damian Lillard. And the other one, coming at number 48, rising up 18 spots, is James Harden. So the system is back. I mean, can we just admire what Harden is doing here in his age 35 season? He went from being a team's entire offense in Houston to then transitioning to being an elite true point guard in Brooklyn and Philadelphia, and is now transitioning back to being a team's whole offense again, especially this year with Paul George being gone and Kawhi Leonard constantly being hurt. So this has been absolutely awesome to see some of these vintage James Harden 40-point performances lately. It's just been really cool. The Clippers are currently in a playoff spot and only 3.5 games out of first, even though they're running their entire offense basically through one 35-year-old guy. So the West is tight, but they're hanging in there. He's currently holding a top 20 spot in fantasy rankings, and it's even better if you're punting field goal percentage and turnover, which are two very common categories to punt, and especially for this season too. So even though he is the team's whole offense, it's not like vintage Harden where he's easily averaging 30 a night, but the scoring's up there. He's capable of some big 40-point plus outbursts. And then we're seeing great out of position rebounds and blocks that I must mention for Harden. And then the high assist rate is still there too. So he's pretty much added the scoring back into his game while keeping the assist rate. So if you're in this situation where you have Harden in a dynasty, don't trade him. You're not going to get back good enough value because everybody is just, a youth merchant and it's not going to want to pay it for a 35-year-old. But that's okay. Enjoy the run. Watch him go off. Watch him carry you. Just keep James Harden. That's going to be the most valuable he is to you, is on your roster.
Andrew, to kind of reinstate your earlier point, I know it's not exclusively about James Harden, but the rise in those older veterans, I kind of want to point out that in this current update, we added a color code towards ages in our dynasty rank list, and we're trying to change that perception of how we should value players. I know in a lot of ranks, the green means they're younger. We kind of changed our middle point to where 27 is how you should kind of gauge who's in their prime versus someone who's like 24 in terms of value wise. So as you can see here at the 27-year-old mark, that's kind of the neutral zone. And anything younger than that is considered young to us. I know other dynasty analysts kind of gear more towards the youth, but we like to find and shift that and gravitate it towards a more competitive balance between assets.
As you can see, there's no red shading at all for somebody who's 27, 28 years old. It only gets to the lightest of reds once they get to age 30. So we like to recognize that that's the athletic prime, age 26 to 30. That's when a player is going to be at their best. All right, moving on. Now we're going to be outside of the top 50. This person only rose up a couple of spots, but he's pretty much been a staple around this range for us, dynasty-wise, for a while. That's number 53, Devin Vassell.
Yeah, I'm really liking Vassell right now. Him coming off the bench is not something that's really concerning to me. Mitch Johnson has been playing off Vassell off the bench pretty exclusively, or not pretty exclusively since Vassell returned, and it doesn't seem to be affecting him at all. He's ranked number 62 on the year. This is only in 23 minutes per game. I mean, his efficiency is off the charts. Yes, it's really he's has not missed a free throw this season, which is, bumping him up a lot. He's probably not the 62nd best player just factoring that in, but he is shooting. He has made three pointers per game, averaging almost 18 points per game, and then almost a steal and a couple of assists to go there as well. The efficiency is really what's been inflating him, but just I'm really excited with what he's been doing this year in this limited minutes. And once his minutes tick back up to 30, which they should, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. It seems like they're kind of just getting him up to speed. We should see some of those counting stats come with him, and I think he's more than earned this ranking. I think it's also really interesting that I'm the lowest out of the three of us by a few spots on him, and I love that you guys are just as high on him as I am.
Very good. Okay, so now we're going to move on to somebody who's also taken a pretty big leap up into our top 60. So this is kind of a leap that was similar to the big one we saw Jalen Suggs take. That's going to be number 58, rising 38 spots, Bilal Coulibaly. So this is a breakout candidate that we identified over the summer. We released a Dynasty Outlook video on Bilal Coulibaly during the Paris Olympics. So make sure to check that out. I'll link that video in the description below. He's cooled off a little bit of late, but there was a very hot start to the season that he had, and it showed those flashes of what he's capable of. He started the year looking like a young Kawhi Leonard, basically. Right now, he's still currently hanging around the outskirts of the top 100, 9-category rank-wise. Keep in mind, though, he is younger than majority of the big names in the 2024 draft class. He's younger than Reed Shepherd. He's younger than Donovan Clingan. As you can see on this list right here, too, he's younger than Dereck Lively. He's also younger than Scoot Henderson. This is crazy to see. With Bilal Coulibaly being this young and showing this much improvement, the Wizards have actually done really well with their drafting the last couple of years. They got Bilal, and then now they added in Sarr, Bub Carrington, and Keyshawn George. So things are starting to look a lot better for the Wizards right now, and Jordan Poole's playing better. If they can add in, let's say, a Cooper Flag, then things going to be looking pretty well for DC moving forward in regards to real life basketball. So if you have him, hold on tight. He's a big piece of the Wizards' future. As we can see from this rank, as well as Alex Sarr's rank, the two Frenchies are the highest rated dynasty players that the Wizards have. I think in regards to the real NBA, those are probably the two most highly valued players. I think Bilal might be even highly valued more due to the fact that he's a long switching versatile wing. So this is somebody who's going to constantly get as much minutes as he can throughout the NBA. This is the type of player that all teams want. So if you have Bilal, hang on, do not let him go. It's just going to keep getting better from here. Okay, next up, we're moving now outside of the top 60. We're still within the top 80 here, and we're going to talk about the second rookie in our video today, someone who's very much impressed us early on in this season, impressed me when I saw him in Summer League. That's going to be Stephon Castle at number 78, rose up 22 spots.
Yeah, so I know we talked about Stephon Castle in our last update in August, but a lot has changed. He didn't come into the league starting, and I know his circumstances for entering the starting lineup were due to injury to a Jeremy Sohan. And I know he started today and Wemby's out and Sohan inserted in as the small ball 5. So it should be very interesting to see if his starting spot sticks. But when he started, he really took, or now that he is starting, now that he's starting, he really took advantage of the opportunity. And he's someone who's a 6'6 guard with ideal size. He's a bully on defense. He's switchable at the 1 through 4. And there's a current nickname going around called Area 51, I believe, because he's number 5 and Victor is number 1, where they just lock everyone out. They lock him out on defense so we can get by them. And I think it's a very clever name, by the way. So with that being said, he's a multi-categorical contributor something that I was actually very excited to see from Stephon Castle is his playmaking ability as a secondary playmaker. So he is playing alongside a Chris Paul, but he's still flashing his own playmaking brilliance, averaging just under 4 a game. So imagine when Chris Paul phases into retirement and Stephon Castle becomes a full-time point guard. You can see those assist numbers rising. So I know he has some games where I think he dished out 8 assists or 7 assists, so it's very encouraging. And something about his efficiency. Point guards, guards in general, entering the league as a rookie are always very inefficient. They're encouraged to take threes more. They have to adjust the extended 3-point line from college to the NBA three. So please don't be worried at the efficiency numbers at 38%, because just to remind everyone, at UConn, he was actually one of the more efficient guards in college basketball, shooting 48% from the field. So we should expect those efficiency numbers to boost up as he integrates himself into the NBA culture. So anything else on Stephon Castle for you guys? I know that he's a very popular riser among the rookies. I believe he's the highest mover in the top 100 that we have here.
I'm just so impressed with his statistical output. Next to the guys that he's next to. I mean, Chris Paul is still racking up assists. Wemby's taking all that usage, and somehow Stephon Castle is scoring and getting assists in the games that he's starting. I think it's awesome, and I think it's a great sign for him moving forward.
And of course, shout out to our industry pickup team, which has Stephon Castle. So all three of us are rooting for Steph to keep it going throughout the year. All right, moving on to the next player, which all of us avoided like the plague. I don't think any of us have him in Dynasty or redraft. Number 80, dropping 27 spots, Jalen Duren.
Yeah, I think it's time to acknowledge that Jalen Duren sucks. I was pretty harsh on him, and I'm surprised you guys weren't a little bit more harsh on him just in your ranking. He's ranked 149 on the year, which is astonishingly bad, as we know how much 9 category favors big men with skill sets like his. His turnovers are just, I mean, stupid at like 2 per game. He's not doing anything besides rebound. There's no steals. Yeah, the field goal is good at 68%, but he's only taking 5 shots per game, and he's only scoring 8 points per game. The free throw is super harmful at 57% on 3 attempts per game, and the minutes are trending down with the Pistons being competitive, only averaging 24 per game this year. I am so done with Duren, and I'd be concerned if he's a big part of your dynasty team. Decent supplemental guy, I guess, but yeah, I don't think I don't think he's warranted to be in the top 60 range, top 70 range.
Shout
Yeah,
out to Star-Lord. I hope you offloaded Duren after watching this.
yeah. So hopefully you got him out of there, Star-Lord. I know you want him gone badly, but I mean, I'm pretty confident this is his last run in the top 100 for us, unless some major things change. Like, he was a big time prospect and had the potential to be like a new type of like Dwight Howard type of player, but he just can't put it together on the floor right now. It's too inefficient, and the Pistons are starting to win without using Duren that much. So at this rate, next update, he's probably going to be closer to where Brax's rank of him is at, which is 103. I think he'll be probably on that top 100 outskirts range, unless things pretty much drastically improve by our next update, which will probably happen at some point, either late January or early February.
Yeah, he's got no offensive game, and he's so lazy on defense. It's just really disappointing to see.
Yeah,
And
and
if
it
he, go ahead,
it
Mitch.
it it doesn't help that he does so many stupid fouls. Like, he'd rather push someone in the back than to box out, or it's just very frustrating. And let alone for the spacing for the Detroit Pistons, that Beef Stew honestly looks like the better option moving forward. I know Beef Stew is probably a career backup center, but hopefully within the next couple draft classes, they, you know, are able to draft the center of the future that fits that mold of a Beef Stew, but with higher upside.
Yeah, because a big part of our like pre-draft scouting process, I think probably I think you could agree with this, Mitch. The number one factor that we look into is basketball IQ. And I think that was a bit of a miss from us and a lot of the Dynasty community. I don't know if maybe he just didn't show it at Memphis and his early career or what, but it looks like he has a terrible basketball IQ. And obviously, if we were more aware of this during the pre-draft process, we probably would have never ranked him so high in the first place. But there was a lot of Dynasty analysts that had him up, top 60, top 50 range. And obviously he's not going to be up there anymore. At least I hope he's not in regards to other Dynasty analyst lists. But yeah, that was kind of a miss across the board. And a lot of us didn't really realize how bad that basketball IQ was. And it's just affecting his overall ability to get minutes in general. So obviously the less minutes he gets, the less he's able to produce for you fantasy wise too. Okay, now we are moving outside of the top 100. That's going to bring us to number 111. He's dropped down 10 spots. I would not be too alarmed by the only dropping down 10 spots at this range. It's mostly just due to some other players moving up. And that's going to be Rob Dillingham. So he will get his chance. He is absolutely the heir to Mike Conley as the Minnesota point guard. He's not playing a ton this year, but that's fine. Consider him as a stash for this year. Think about how Jalen Johnson's first 2 years in the NBA went before he became the asset that we all know him as today. It was a lot of G League time and a lot of very limited minutes as well. And I think we will also see that with Dillingham for this year and potentially parts of next year, depending on how long this Mike Conley tenure in Minnesota is going to last. But he showed great flashes during parts of this year when Conley was out, including a 12.5 rebound, 7 assist game on November 26th. So again, do not be discouraged by these low minutes. His time will come. Do not trade him. That is the main message I want to convey. And I chose to discuss Dillingham specifically for this reason. Do not trade him. Do not give up on him. Keep him stashed where you can. He's going to be good for you eventually. All right, we're going to just move down one spot to number 112 for a pretty big riser in this recent update. Moving up 79 spots is going to be Christian Braun.
Yeah, I mean, even despite the 79 spot increase, I'm surprised you guys don't have him higher. I mean, this is another one, and I feel like I've done this now for a couple where I'm just like the outlier. But I feel like if he was like in his second season instead of his third season, he would be getting talked about way more. For the first 2 seasons, it was always, oh, I don't know what Brown will be able to do when at his peak, he seems more like an IRL guy than a fantasy guy. But he's showing it this year. He's 79th on the year. He's playing 35 minutes per game, which is crazy. I don't know if he's going to do that all year. But it seems like the Brown versus Watson argument has been fully settled. Brown is a major piece of this team moving forward after KCP has left. It was kind of like up in the air as to which one of them was going to take the step. It's Brown, no question about it. He's making. He's shooting over 1 3 per game, 15.6 points, 5.1 rebounds, 2 assists, over 1 steal, half a block, and the turnovers are nice and low at 1.4. The efficiency is pretty crazy at 58%. Honestly, it might be sustainable. He's taking 10 shots per game, and he's, making obviously 5.8 of them. Just his shots are all really high quality looks. This is similar to Aaron Gordon. There's a lot of cutting going on. He's not taking a ton of threes, and the ones he's making. So I just don't. It doesn't seem that unreasonable for him to keep it around 55 or something like that. I just think Brown is awesome and should be a top 100 guy in dynasty circles.
All right, moving on to somebody who has recently fallen out of the top 100 for us. He drops 22 spots now to number 115. That's going to be Brandin Podziemski.
Yeah, I'm kind of guilty of having him the highest here, but there's definitely needs to be a talk of consideration of the type of asset he is. We've seen him in the offseason being traded across our dynasty leagues that we share together for someone like a Brandon Ingram or guys around that like top 50 to top 100 range. But he's not someone that you really want to build around at that type of level. And there was a lot of hype warranted during the offseason, right? Because he was that first team all rookie with a stacked draft class, by the way. And also, there was a lot of talk with he's going to increase that 3-point volume. Kerr wanted 8 threes a game, something that definitely isn't sustainable for someone like a Brandin Podziemski who has trouble separating space from a defender. And also, he had a lot of hype because he is one of the better rebounding guards in the league. I think he averaged almost 5 rebounds per game as a rookie who's only 6'3", 6'2". Um, and a reason for his fall, now that talking about all the good things that we were looking forward for Brandin Podziemski, was the efficiency. He's one of the worst at rim finishers in the NBA and by far the worst three-point shooters in the league. He's shooting 39% at the rim and 20% from three on decent volume. So he's going to hurt you on those field goal and free throw efficiency stats. By the way, he's a point guard who can't shoot free throws. That's a pretty big red flag in terms of efficiency and what you would want to progress in the future. And Steve Kerr's 12-man rotations definitely aren't helping his long-term development. But I will say he has racked up a couple of pretty good games recently with Steph Curry out, Draymond out. So there could be a sell high point within the next couple weeks. But I just don't really see top 100 in the future as a dynasty asset. I know he has those good volume sets that you want, but the efficiency just kills you with Brandin Podziemski.
All right, moving down a few spots. This person rose only 7 spots, so just a minor bump here. At number 121 is going to be Cam Johnson. So, as expected, he's playing a big role on this now tank-minded Brooklyn team. I mean, Brooklyn sucked for a while recently, but now they actually have control of their first-round picks. So, the tank is more on this year. They have been winning a little bit too much lately, though. So, this is a big bounce back after that poor season last year. Last year, he was awful. So he currently actually sits in the top 50 for this season. So this bounce back is much better than expected. And if his field goal percentage gets slightly higher, he'd actually be in the 50, 40, 90 club. He's also upped his volume at the free throw line, which is good. And as mentioned, he's currently shooting 90% from the line. He still does not produce steals or blocks, so stocks, but the offense has been great. Perhaps too great. So we must keep in mind he is a candidate to be traded away from Brooklyn, which would, of course, likely give his value a hit. There's a small chance that he doesn't get traded, but he is probably one of the main pieces that could get traded, like him, Dorian Finney-Smith, for example. Attempt to sell high if you do own him, especially if you can get a top 100 dynasty asset back. Even if he doesn't get traded, there's still a chance that shooting regresses because it is currently at the best it has ever been in his career for all 3 categories: field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and free throw percentage. He's shooting at career highs across the board right now. So he is a regression candidate. Moving down a few spots to someone who's having an absolutely insane year. He's moved up 11 spots to number 125, Josh Hart.
Okay. Do you guys know how highly Josh Hart is ranked this year in 9 category? Do either you know?
It's got to be top 100 for sure.
He is. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Let me give my best guess. 55.
Mitch?
Like 50?
He's 24 on the year. He's ranked 24th in 9 category, and he's not even doing anything that's outside of his norm. I mean, this is crazy. The Karl-Anthony Towns trade has been a godsend for him. He is a nightly triple-double threat, and I'm wondering what he has to do to get some respect around here and in the dynasty community. I mean, it's crazy. He's almost 14 points per game, 8.5 boards, 6 assists out of the forward slot, which you guys know I love. 1.4 steals and less than 2 turnovers per game. The assist to turnover ratio is awesome. And he's making over 1 3 per game at 1.2. He's shooting almost 60%. His free throw is 86. I mean, he's not hurting you literally anywhere. He's been insane and strong buy for me right now for contenders. I think you'd have a hard time getting him at a reasonable price because anybody selling probably knows how good he's doing. But I mean, if you can get him for something reasonable, like, I mean, even this dynasty ranking we have him at is probably not high enough. If he was named something else and he didn't have like this role player reputation, I think he would pretty easily be in the top 100 just based on this stat profile he has and what he's been doing. And I think he's going to play a ton of minutes for Tibbs down the stretch. I mean, I just love Josh Hart this year. and moving forward.
Shout out to him for being a big boost for our industry pickup team as well. He's been awesome. Absolutely. All right. Now moving on to somebody who has also been very awesome this year. Moved a big riser, moving up 84 spots to number 139. It's going to be Stormin' Norman Powell. So how awesome has this guy been? Who needs Paul George when you have Norman Powell? He's coming in also with a top 50 rank. We got a lot of these veterans role players who are currently residing in the top 50 even after 20 games have been played so far this season. So with the basically a quarter of games being played, some of these guys are holding on to some pretty strong numbers. So this is the highest we've seen Norm go in a long time. He's really not doing a ton outside of scoring, but the scoring has been so good and so efficient. It's really boosting his value. It's efficiency across the board. So also from the line, and very, very low turnovers as well. I'm not really taking Kawhi's return into account as a factor to be that detrimental to Norm, mainly because Paul George is gone. And also, of course, Kawhi's never healthy. He's even outside of our top 100 in our dynasty ranks now, spoiler alert. So with that in mind, even if Kawhi does return, there's still plenty of shots to go around. All of the Clippers roster besides Harden, Norm, and Zubac are all role players. So there's no detriment to taking shots away from Chris Dunn, Derrick Jones Jr., Terrence Mann, or something like that. All the shot makers on this team is Harden, Kawhi, Norm Powell, and Ivica Zubac. So just keep riding high right now. He's a buy in dynasty and redraft leagues. Again, we have no idea when Kawhi is coming back, and at this point, we don't care. Just keep rolling Norm out there. He's going to be great for you. He's been awesome for the Clippers this year. All right, next up, moving down a few spots to number 146. He actually rose 43 spots. That's going to be Santi Aldama.
Andrew, I've been trying to hype Santi Aldama to you for the last 2 or 3 years now that he's the future of Spanish basketball. You're not buying it until today, so I'm glad this season woke you up a bit. Santi Aldama rose 43 spots, and I feel like he's the best kept secret in the dynasty community right now. He's only 39 or 23 years old. Sorry, misread that. And he's almost 24. But if he was on any other team, well, I wouldn't say any other team, but I believe Santi Aldama would be starting for half of the NBA teams today. Santi Aldama can play the 3 through 5 because of his shooting, his playmaking. He could bring up the ball from a rebound and bring it up into transition, and he could do a lot of great things. Can you guys, okay, I'm going to copy Brax's exercise here. What do you think Santi Aldama is ranked in this season as someone who we thought of as a potential waiver pickup, a waiver flyer that we'd add and we drop throughout the year in 9 category leagues? Any guesses?
I'm going to guess he's like 50, 51.
And I said
Andrew?
70.
Okay, you guys are a little too generous here, but 83 for someone who doesn't, who
that
barely
got us after Braxton's was like 30 spots higher than we get.
Okay, I mean, just think of it. He's only playing like 26 minutes a game. He's not playing like 38 minutes like a Josh Hart. So imagine being in a featured role, the potential value that Santi Aldama can give you in a pretty cheap return of investment. I'd assume a lot of dynasty managers would sell him for like a teens pick or an early 20s pick. I mean, Brax, you sold him for a late 20s pick early in the before the season started.
It was too late first, yeah.
Oh, too late first. Okay, so still, I mean, that's still a great buy. And, if he signs somewhere else in restricted free agency in the offseason that gives him that featured role, can you just like imagine if he's getting 30 minutes a game? That's top 50 potential for someone you can get relatively cheap. His rebounds are up from like 5 rebounds to 7.5 rebounds. His assists are at 3.4 as a power forward center spot, and he's getting 1.5 threes. He's shooting pretty good from the field. And he's really just having a great career year. So if you're listening to this, I know no other dynasty community or group is talking about Santi Aldama. So, think of this as our little secret and go ahead and buy Santi Aldama. And maybe in a year or two, he'll be in the top 100 pretty soon.
He does have a good 9-cat profile. If you look back at his college numbers at his time at Loyola, he was awesome. And what we're starting to see is the assists come back that he did have in his game at Loyola too. And then the big caveat for me, which is why I'm on board the Santi train as well now, is the efficiency cleaned up, especially his efficiency from the field. I mean, as a big man, he was shooting like below 45%. In past years, and now he's closer to that 50% range. So that's the jump that we wanted to see. And of course, for somebody in a position like him, adding size and physical maturity is definitely a huge benefit to him here. All right, so now we're almost out of our top 150. We're going to number 150 exactly to a 19-year-old who dropped 31 spots recently. That's going to be Ron Holland.
Yeah, I know Ron Holland is 19, but he might be terrible. I was super low on him coming into the season. I know you guys are a little bit higher than me. And I mean, he can't shoot. There's no defensive stats. I'm not sure where the fantasy game comes from. That was my concern coming into the season. And it's not like he's not playing. He's playing almost 16 minutes per game. He's just not good. He's not really good at anything. And if he is going to be a good fantasy asset, I think it's several years down the line, and just not somebody I'm looking to acquire in any sense right now.
Now moving on to our biggest overall riser, period, for this update. At number 164, rising 147 spots. This is honestly long overdue. A lot of us thought this guy was good when he had a two-way contract for the Lakers, but he took a little bit of extra time to really break into the league, and now might be probably one of the best backup point guards in the league. And that's going to be coming at number 164, a back-to-back for you, Braxton. We're going to talk about Scotty Pippen.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get much more of a bigger rise than this. I looked on our last update, Andrew, you had 297, I had 299, Mitch had unranked. I mean, with top 300 ranks, it really does not get lower than that. And jumping from outside of the top 300, what is that, 311? He was ranked last time, into outside of the top 300 on a top 300 list into 164 is really impressive, and should illustrate how high we are on him. Honestly, this could be like a Tyus Jones situation where he's kind of like stuck behind like a better point guard, but like on a better team, he could start and be great. Scottie Pippen has filled in admirably for Ja Morant this year in the games that he's missed. And as you said, Andrew, he is probably one of the better backup point guards in the league. And again, these numbers are a bit inflated just because he started a bunch of games, but 11 points per game, 4 boards, 5.5 assists, 1.2 steals. You're not really asking much more out of a point guard on your team. And Scottie Pippen is he's locked in on that Grizzlies team now with the contract. So maybe a few years before he gets any kind of starting role. But he's an elite handcuff, probably the best handcuff you can find for any player, and is a nice low-end asset on your dynasty team.
Yeah, if you own Ja Morant, do whatever you can to also have Scottie Pippen on your roster too. That'll be a huge trade-off for you if you do manage to pull that off. All right, so we're dropping down the list a little bit here. We're getting towards outside of the top 200. We're still within it right now, though. A recent faller, dropping down 32 spots at number 187. So this is what I mentioned earlier on in the video with depth being a problem for specific names for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And now we're going to talk about Alex Caruso. So this is a bit of a drop for him. I mean, it turns out you don't look as special when you also share the same role with Cason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins. So the minutes are at an all-time low since his early Lakers days. And this is just really not the result that any of us expected when we saw OKC add Caruso. We thought he was going to be a staple in the rotation, play pretty heavy minutes, but it's been basically less than 20 minutes per game at this point where, like I mentioned, OKC is completely fine playing a very deep rotation. I mean, imagine having constantly Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, and Alex Caruso on the floor. That's just an insane output of defense. But in regards to fantasy and dynasty basketball, that hurts us the owners of Alex Caruso. So the defense is still good. He is still a stocks specialist, but as of now, he is purely a defensive specialist. I mean, right now, these numbers have reverted down to being Matisse Thybulle numbers, where previously Caruso was able to generate a little bit of offense, some threes per game, as well as some decent assists per game now too. But those have all really dried up quite a bit. So at this point in time, if you own him, it's purely for defense. The offensive output, I mean, he was never a great scorer, but he was decent, and then had some respectable assist numbers as well too. But now he's down to 5, 2, and 2, which is, again, Matisse Thybulle, something like around that range. And it's just the defensive specialist there. Like, he's still at 1.8 steals per game, which is good, and good out of position blocks, but that's pretty much it. So you have to factor that in if you do want to acquire Alex Caruso, is how much do you actually want to spend on somebody who's really only contributing in 2 categories for you. Now let's move down one spot. We got a few rookies in our list today, a few 2024 rookies, someone who dropped now 23 spots since our last update. We're going to talk about Cody Williams at number 188.
Yeah, so Cody Williams, he is one of our followers of the rookie class. I know, Andrew, you have him at 194, Brax 199. I have him 167. I like to give him the benefit of the doubt that we knew coming in he was probably going to be the most raw rookies in this class given his age. And what was a red flag in the pre-draft process that we really looked into, Andrew, was the small sample size of his efficiency and volume from the three-point line. Theoretically, if you look at the numbers, he was projecting as someone who is a reliable three-point shooter, someone who is great attacking the rim, similar to his brother J-Dub. That hasn't entirely translated. And if you remember, J-Dub was a 3-year player at Santa Clara, whereas Cody Williams was a true freshman at the University of Colorado. And, we did drop him because we haven't really liked what we've seen. He was recently sent to the G League after getting the starting nod early into the season when Larry had those like back spasms, or I forgot, some sort of injury that gave him that opportunity that he could capitalize and be someone who can provide an early return of investment. But that definitely wasn't the case. He's shooting 27% from the field, which is absolutely putrid, and 19% from 3. So with Cody Williams, there is still some hope. We knew going in that it would take some time. So for now, he is a faller, but he could potentially break into that top 150, maybe 1 to 2 more years, because it definitely is going to take some time there.
Is 27% from the field bad? Is that not what you want?
Yeah, it's
Brax,
it's worse than Alex Sarr.
The rankings on here, mine and yours ranked, so 194 for me and 199 for you is pretty much dead on the same. And I think you and I both had the same idea. Like, we're seeing a bit too much Tony Snell, a bit too much just getting his cardio in and not doing anything else, which is unfortunate. I personally will admit that I was high on Cody in the early pre-draft process, and then as the combine and summer league took place, it waned a tiny bit. I did witness a good game from him in summer league, a 20-point outing he had against the Mavericks in summer league. But yeah, so far fumbling the ball with the starting opportunity, it's not looking great. But I think he deserves to still be within the top 200 and have a little bit of leeway moving forward, because he is very young still. He's 20 years old exactly. Would you look at that? We're going to talk about another member of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So number 198, somebody who rose up 63 spots for us. I always like to see when all 3 of us have a player like within a 10 to 15 spot range, especially deeper down here, because it means we're in agreement across the board. So we got to talk about Ajay Mitchell. Obviously, I had to find a way to talk about Ajay Mitchell at some point in this video. So despite being a player who is on a 2-way contract, Ajay has played in every single OKC game so far this season, playing over 15 minutes a night, and he has yet to be sent to the G League. So expect a formal contract offer coming for this guy soon. So despite having Shea, Dort, Caruso, Wiggins, Wallace, Joe. AJ still gets minutes on a first place team. Why? Because he's good, and coaches love this kind of player. He can be a connective piece, and he can take on a bigger role when needed, such as his 12.7 assist effort against Houston in early November. So congrats to those who grabbed him, especially if we're in a deeper league. You got him maybe at the end of the first round of your draft or early second round. Congrats if you invested in AJ Mitchell, because he is awesome. We were on this one early as March of 2024. So far, so good. And again, expect that formal contract offer to happen soon. There's no way he stays on a two-way contract for this entire season. No chance.
Dude, Andrew, as soon as I heard that the Big West was probably going to get a first round prospect, I looked into him so much. I was like, Andrew, watch his highlights with against Arizona State last year when he dropped like 36 points. And then ever since then, dude, we've just been on that AJ Mitchell train, and it's only going up.
Yeah, I remember watching some highlights and texting you like, this is a first round player. This is someone who should be selected in the 20s. I thought he was going to get selected in the 20s on draft night, but he fell a little bit to, I think OKC got him at 37, which was surprising me. I remember rooting hard that he was going to go at the end of the first round. But, it didn't turn out that way. And once again, the league let Sam Presti get another gem to add to his arsenal.
Side
Now,
question before we
go
move
ahead.
on. With the ascension of AJ Mitchell, I think we should be worried about Nikola Jovic. He's missing a year out of development, and AJ Mitchell's already playing
You mean
in heavy
Topic?
rot Topic, sorry. Topic, not Jovic. Nikola Topic. I think there's a lot of concern for him moving forward, missing that year of development to an ACL injury. AJ Mitchell already integrating himself with, the rotation lineup with Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso, Dort, obviously the starters. So how does Topic, how do you guys feel about Topic in general now that AJ is pretty much being that rookie guard for them?
I mean, you still got to give Topic a chance. Absolutely. Especially if you're the Thunder. I don't think he'll be used as a trade piece. I mean, so far, the Thunder have really been hanging on to their young core. Like, the only guys who really got to the outskirts of their young core that they got rid of was Giddey and Trey Mann. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, a lot of these recent draft picks that they've made are staying on their team within their rotation. So I think they'll still give Topic a chance. But yeah, AJ's been looking great. I mean, we can't definitively say that AJ's better than him right now, but as of right now, Dagnall is buying into AJ, giving him minutes. So it's absolutely, like you said, noteworthy, something to keep an eye on moving forward for when Topic eventually does return. And of course, someone like AJ being good is just hurting the rest of the guards. Like I mentioned earlier, Alex Caruso, there's a deep rotation going on in OKC right now because they're good across the board. This is like a 12 deep team of players who can easily play rotation minutes on any NBA team. And that's why they're in first place. So, like I mentioned, AJ Mitchell has never been sent to the G League, but this next player has been sent to the G League. I think this might be one of our biggest droppers in general. Coming in at number 210, dropping 78 spots, is Cam Whitmore.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about Cam Whitmore and Andrew Brax too. I know when we were building out our first pre-draft rookie, kind of like scouting report and our own ranks for the upcoming rookie class in 2023, we were probably the lowest on Cam Whitmore. I know there was a lot of hype with him being like a top 5 pick, top 10 pick in, those rookie drafts. Um, but we didn't buy it. So props to us. And a lot of things that we look into that Andrew, you mentioned before, was that high B-ball IQ is something that we really want to see in a player, and it really transitions very well in terms of the NBA. And that's the reason why Cam Whitmore was sent to the G League, because of his low basketball IQ. The Rockets are winning right now as a top 3 seed in the West, and there's no reason for them right now to play through Whitmore's mistakes. So there's a lot of things that I don't like about Cam Whitmore. He's a ball stopper. He has tunnel vision, and he really can't play within any flow of the offense. So that really limits him and caps him out as a microwave scorer off the bench. And I just don't see that starter upside here in Cam Whitmore. So if you can still salvage a potential mid I mean, any first round pick for him, I'd like to just kind of re-roll uh, and use Cam Whitmore as a trade bait or a trade piece.
Yeah, good luck getting a first round pick. I think maybe somebody who has not been paying attention is the only person that would do that.
Yeah, I mean, he looked great during his summer league performance, and that was one of the better players that I saw at summer league. But I think it was more of a man amongst children type of
And
scenario that played out for him. Like I remember when I talked about how great he looked in summer league. This was with Mark C on the Pun Intended podcast. Um, Mark kind of told me to pump the brakes a little bit, and he was definitely right to do that. So, I mean, luckily we never did put Cam into our top 100 at any point. We were low on him on the pre-draft process. He kind of started well in the rookie year, and so some people were thinking like, oh, he shouldn't have fallen this far, but now it's starting to look like that fall for him was justified because obviously now that Tari Eason is healthy, he's a lot better than him, and the Rockets are just getting deeper and better. Moving on to our next player, Braxton, I am very happy you selected this player to cover because I also considered choosing him as well, but I didn't want to have three Clippers in my choices. It was a little too much bias for me since I am a Lakers fan. But moving up 30 spots now at number 242 is going to be Derrick Jones Jr.
Yeah, this Clippers team reminds me of like those scrappy Clippers teams from the late 2010s, where they kind of just pieced together a bunch of role players and made a little bit of noise in the playoffs. Didn't really do anything, right? But um, uh, Kawhi Leonard being out has really benefited some players, including Derrick Jones. Amir Coffey is another one, and Jordan Miller seems to be another one now, as of late. Not a ton to say here about Derrick Jones. I mean, he is having the best season of his career. He's got career highs across the board here. His steals have been really nice at 1.3 per game. Remains to be seen if he's going to maintain that. But yeah, he's a really nice low end guy to have. I mean, he's shooting 41% from three, which is his best of his career. The 1.3 threes per game is the best of his career as well. Just somebody who's not really on a lot of people's radar in shallower leagues, in category leagues, and I think he can really help you on the right team.
All right. So for this next guy, Braxton, I'm sending you a virtual high five across the country to your location because you and I ranked Guerschon Yabusele in the last rank update. And obviously in this one, he's a big riser. So he went up 66 spots to number 243. This is a great story, turning his role with the French Olympic team into a second opportunity with the NBA. And this time he's thriving. So he is excellent in a punt three throw build. His defense isn't great, but it's serviceable. But he's across the board with nice out of position threes as well as assists for a forward center. He's a great end of bench option to have on your dynasty roster, especially due to the fact that he plays behind Joel Embiid, who is constantly injured. And it's not like Andre Drummond is a spring chicken either. Philly, I think, got an absolute steal here. Minimum salary for someone playing over 20 minutes a night who's capable of scoring over 10 points per game, flexible in regards to his positional versatility, can stay in front of guys as defensive assignments. So, props to Yabu. Turn an Olympic appearance into a new NBA life for him. It's awesome to see. All right, getting towards the tail end here, we have somebody who is newly ranked in our system. He was not ranked last time. He is now coming in at number 245. Let's talk about Ty Jerome.
Andrew, you know Ty Jerome very well. You and I made a trade for him early in the season. Obviously, let's do the game one more time. Where would you guys think Ty Jerome is ranked on the year?
I don't want to, I just keep saying the same number, but I'm going to guess 70 again.
I'm gonna guess like 85. I know he pops off when Mitchell's out, but I know he's playing like less than 20 minutes a game, so I want to say 80, which is great for a, per 36 standpoint.
Yeah, he's 95 on the year, and Mitch, and as you said, he's carried by a couple games where Mitchell was out. But even before then, he's somebody I talked about on the buy sell even before he had those pop off games that week. That was the week I had talked about Jerome. In the next couple days, he had those big games. I literally said, "Hey, if Donovan Mitchell sits, he's somebody you really going to want to have." I didn't think he was going to do as well as he did, right? But he's kind of a permanent beast this year. I mean, he's averaging 12 points per game, two rebounds, 3.6 assists, and the 1.4 steals per game. Has not recorded a block, but that's not why you have him. The field goal percentage is off the charts at 57% for a guard. and he's shooting 89 from the line. I mean, he's legit. Obviously, when you get this deep, these are not like long-term assets, closer to 250 on this list, but he might still be on waiver wires in a lot of dynasty leagues, and he is somebody you want to grab, especially if you have one of those elite Cavs guards. If they miss, he's gonna pop off. But even if he doesn't, he still has some nice nights. I mean, the last couple games have not been great by his standards, but he has been battling an illness the last week or so at the time we're recording this. And before that, even before those huge games with Mitchell out, and Garland out, he was serviceable in a small role, like 15 or 16 minutes per night. So just somebody I really like, and a nice low end guy. If he's on a waiver wire, grab him, and I wouldn't mind sending a late pick for him in a dynasty league.
We got our last player, number 30, that we want to talk about. He dropped 54 spots to number 267. That's going to be Gary Trent.
Man, this guy just sucks. I'm just gonna say it, straight up. This guy's career has been downhill since his top 50 season 4 years ago, where he was really carried by those high threes and high steals numbers that were never going to be sustainable, given steals being one of the most volatile categories in terms of, a statistical output. And there was hope. Trust me, there was hope, which is why I believe we did bump him up from last season to preseason in our August update, because he was going to be taking that starting role and replace Malik Beasley as that shooting guard for the Bucks. But since that, he fumbled his starting role to Andre Jackson Jr., and his value just relies way too much on steals, where he does need a lot of minutes for. And he's down 5 points per game from 13 to 8 in this season. And he's just a complete hard sell for me. So if you can get like a second round pick in a 30-team league, go ahead and go for it. And hopefully you can get the next Ajay Mitchell.
So that's going to do it for us today. We had 312 players ranked in our recent update, and we discussed 30 of them for you guys today. So if you have anything to share about one of the players that we discussed, or if you wanted to discuss one of the players in our rankings that was not mentioned in the video today, then make sure to leave a comment down below. Be on the lookout for future Dynasty Outlook videos this month for Dyson Daniels, Jared McCain, and Tari Eason. If you want to check out our rankings, once again, you can find them at anglefantasybasketball.wordpress.com. We will put the link in the description below. And I will also, at the end of this video, we'll link to our recent videos for the RJ Barrett Dynasty Outlook, as well as our Intuit Dome vlog experience. And of course, check out our YouTube channel on a weekly basis for Braxton's buy and sell videos. Make sure to like this video, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we will see you guys next time.
Captain, always gotta look for him. Beat so tight, I almost put a hook on it. Verse so fire, I almost put a cook on it. Had this shit jumping, looking like I put a foot on it. Got 100 on the dash when I book Sonic. Only game that I play, got a rook on it. Got a flow so hard that it looks solid, y'all be cynical.